There are 9 things I want to highlight from college football week 6. Number 1 is this. Unranked Texas A&M beat number 1 ranked Alabama 41-38. First of all, great win by Texas A&M. That's fantastic. They deserve a ton of credit. Texas A&M led 24-10 at halftime. They hit the game-winning field goal at the end to win. Jimbo Fisher, their head coach, a guy who won a national title at Florida State. Like, Jimbo Fisher's trying to build this Texas A&M program, and so far, this is his signature win, beating Alabama, an unranked Texas A&M team. He's a head coach. He beats number 1 Alabama. Very cool, very exciting for him and for Texas A&M. Now, as crazy as this sounds, losing this game, I think actually might be a good thing for Alabama. Like, I saw that happen on Saturday, and I called my dad. I'm like, we're on the phone like, hey, we think Alabama just won the national title. And you would say, like, what? How can Alabama lose to unranked Texas A&M and it be a good thing? But I think secretly and quietly behind the scenes, I think Alabama head coach Nick Saban is happy. I think he's actually happy. You remember, they were the number 1 team in the nation. Some of his players are making tons and tons of money, like literally millions of dollars. And I think a humbling loss and an inexcusable loss is something he can use. I mean, if they lost to Georgia, for example, in the SEC championship game, fair enough, you got beat by a good team, but you lose to Texas A&M, who's unranked, that's inexcusable. And this is a loss that Nick Saban can now refer to all year. When guys are screwing around, he's like, hey, did you forget? Did you forget we lost to Texas A&M? Like, he can always use that as motivation. And so Nick Saban is too good of a coach to not use this loss to his advantage later on. And if you look ahead at Alabama's schedule, they don't play Georgia, and they're not going to play Georgia until the SEC title game when the East and the West collide. And so if they can win there, if Alabama can beat Georgia in the title game for the SEC, they're going to make it into the college football playoff. And so in a weird way, I think this loss will be good for Alabama. It humbled them, and Nick Saban's going to use it to focus his team for the rest of the year. So I think Alabama actually is probably still going to make it into the college football playoff as a one-loss team, and we'll see. It's a prediction. We'll see what happens. But I looked at that loss and was like, this may not be the worst thing that's ever happened to Alabama and Nick Saban. During week 6, I talked about Georgia. Georgia beat Auburn 34-10. And Georgia quarterback JT Daniels was hurt. He did not play. Now, his backup, Stetson Bennett, came in and played very, very well. He was 14 for 21 passing, 231 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Stetson Bennett has played in and started in a lot of games in college football. But Saturday against Auburn, that's the best I've ever seen Stetson Bennett play during his entire career. And honestly, it might have helped him that JT Daniels was injured because there's no threat of losing your job. There's no threat of getting benched. He's like, hey, I'm the guy. I know I'm the guy. So he sees the guy. He's not going to hesitate pulling the trigger on a deep ball or anything like that. And he played like a guy who is more free and just like saying, I have nothing to lose. And I thought Stetson Bennett played fantastic. And it's a real storyline. It's very possible that Stetson Bennett could have earned the starting job for the rest of the year for Georgia. Like, when JT Daniels is back healthy, is he the guy? I don't know. Because that's the most convincing a quarterback has looked all year for Georgia. And so that's a story to keep your eye on. Is Stetson Bennett the starting quarterback at Georgia after the Auburn game? Now, also on Saturday, Oklahoma beat Texas, University of Texas, Austin. The Red River Showdown. It was crazy. By the way, Texas led this game actually 28-7 at one point. And then, early on after having 2 turnovers, Oklahoma head coach Lincoln Riley benched his quarterback, a really, really talented young quarterback, Spencer Rattler. And instead, true freshman quarterback Caleb Williams came in, and he led a comeback. Oklahoma won 55-48. And in the end, Caleb Williams had thrown for 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He also had this crazy 66-yard touchdown run on 4th and 1. Broke a tackle, got through it, and was kind of like, oh my gosh, no one's around me. And ran for the rest of the field for a touchdown. And I became a really big Caleb Williams fan during this game. He's a way better leader than Spencer Rattler. He was encouraging his guys. He was rallying his teammates. And I got to be honest, I was not sad at all to see Spencer Rattler get benched. Spencer Rattler is not very likable. He seems very, very arrogant. And I just wonder, was this benching permanent? Is Spencer Rattler going to play in the coming weeks? I don't know. Remember, he was viewed as the top quarterback prospect in the entire NFL draft coming up. The upcoming NFL draft, like a lot of people view Spencer Rattler as the best guy who's going to enter the draft. And now he got benched. And all along I've been saying, like Spencer Rattler's talent is undeniable, got a massive arm. But this year we've seen him play, not only playing bad and making bad decisions, he's immature. And this is far from the first time you've seen a moment where Spencer Rattler looked immature. And if I'm an NFL team, I'm like, I'm staying far, far away from that guy. Still is wild, though. Again, is Caleb Williams now Oklahoma's starting quarterback? And could Spencer Rattler transfer? Would he just maybe go to the NFL early and say, I'm here, let's make it happen? Like Deshaun Kaiser, I remember, was really talented. He came out of Notre Dame really early and failed. I think I would not advise Spencer Rattler to leave now for the NFL. That seems like a terrible idea. Now, biggest question of all, if Spencer Rattler does lose his job and let's say he has to transfer, could that loss humble him and help him mature? Probably not. Spencer Rattler, I would be shocked if he used this loss and this benching as an opportunity to mature as a person, because what he's probably going to do is blame other people and say, well, coach is unfair and suck, and blame other people and not take accountability for the things he did wrong. But it's possible. So keep your eye on what happens with Spencer Rattler. By the way, this is how Texas lost to Oklahoma. This is crazy to me. Caleb Williams led the big comeback. Yes, he was fantastic. But Oklahoma had a 33-yard touchdown run with 1 second left on the clock. Like, it's unthinkable. Terrible tackling by Texas, too. You let Oklahoma running back Kennedy Brooks not only have the game-winning touchdown run with 33 seconds left, he also had 25 carries for 217 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kennedy Brooks had a fantastic day. And that final play, horrible tackling by Texas. That's embarrassing. Now, there was another big game. Ole Miss beat Arkansas 52-51. And there were 41 points scored in the fourth quarter of this game. It was ridiculous. It was crazy. It was so much fun to watch. What it all came down to, though, was 2nd and goal for Arkansas on the 9-yard line with 1 second left. And what's crazy is, they were down 52-45, 9-yard line, 1 second left, and they score a touchdown. You're like, oh my gosh, Arkansas scored. We're headed to overtime. And then instead of going to overtime, they tried to go for 2 and they lost. And it's pretty sad. I wanted overtime. I was gearing up. I'm like, oh, here we go. 1, 2, how many overtimes is it going to take? These two teams are rolling on offense. And because I love college football overtime. But Arkansas rolled the dice. They lost. They tried to go for a 2-point conversion. Didn't get it. Ole Miss won. And a lot of people hate on Ole Miss head coach Lane Kiffin. I think Lane Kiffin is entertaining. Every time I watch his team play, I have a good time. His offenses are fun. He's got this quirky, braggadocious personality. Did you see, Ole Miss on Twitter put a thing, they said, did Arkansas win? And it was just a video of Arkansas's coach going, I can't remember. I think it was just no, but I think it was just that, but I can't remember exactly what it was. Someone can find it. Look up didarkansaswin.com, and it's a really funny video of Arkansas's head coach. Also, crazy side note, remember, Arkansas put up 51 points on Ole Miss. And in my opinion, my actual thought was, do you understand how good Georgia's defense must be? Because the same Arkansas team that put up 51 points on Ole Miss got shut out by Georgia's defense. They're like, oh, that's unbelievable. So this match, Georgia's no joke. They're a really good football team, and I'm excited to see how they do the rest of this year. Now, number 3, Iowa beat number 4, Penn State. Penn State quarterback Sean Clifford left the game early with an injury. When he left the game, Penn State was winning 17-3. Now, Sean Clifford threw 2 interceptions, sure, but his backup quarterback, Taquan Roberson, did not play very well. And both Penn State quarterbacks, Sean Clifford and Taquan Roberson, threw 2 interceptions each. So yes, Iowa, between 2 quarterbacks, Iowa had 4 interceptions in this game. But even with the 2 picks, Sean Clifford put up 17 points and had a 17-3 lead. So, Penn State could not score without Sean Clifford in the second half. Only 3 points in the entire second half. I just wonder, man, if Sean Clifford hadn't gotten hurt. I don't wonder this. I actually kind of believe. I think Penn State might have won. Him getting injured was a difference in this football game. And I just, man, it's such a shame. If Sean Clifford doesn't get hurt, I think Penn State beats Iowa. And Penn State would have been the undefeated team instead of Iowa. It's just an interesting, fun little what if. Now, even though that happened, and I don't know that Iowa's win. I think Iowa's win is diminished a little bit knowing that the opposing team's starting quarterback got injured. Still, though, I hope I see Iowa go undefeated. That would be very, very cool. I'm afraid that at some point this year, Iowa's going to slip up, whether it's to maybe in the Big Ten title game, they lose to like Ohio State, or worse could be that, they pull an Oregon. Remember, Oregon lost to Stanford. I fear that Iowa's going to lose to a team like Illinois or Nebraska and just lose to a bad football team. That happens every year, that you see a team that's doing so good and then they have that one bad game every team has every year and they can't recover from it. Like a one-loss Iowa team is not going to make it into the college football playoff. So, man, I would love to see it. If Iowa made it into the college football playoff, that would be so fun to see a different team from the Big Ten make it in. And then imagine if both Iowa and Cincinnati got in, it would be fantastic. Now, Cincinnati right now is the number 3 team in the nation. They beat Temple this week 52-3. Last week they beat Notre Dame. And if you look at Cincinnati's final 7 games, they are all winnable. They play Central Florida, Navy, Tulane, Tulsa, South Florida, a ranked SMU team who's solid, and then East Carolina. So Cincinnati might go completely undefeated and really, really challenge the college football playoff selection committee. I would love to see Cincinnati make it into the college football playoff. That'd be really, really fun to see happen. Now, so far, there are a couple other teams that are undefeated. Kentucky is 6-0. They just beat LSU 42-21. Next week, though, Kentucky plays Georgia, and anything's possible. I'd be shocked if Kentucky beat Georgia, though. Certainly after. So let's say Kentucky loses to Georgia. Still, an 11-1 season is very, very possible for Kentucky, and they're having a great year. It'd be super cool to see them go 11-1 and win a New Year's Six bowl game. And then Michigan and Michigan State are both 6-0. Now, they play each other in 2 weeks. They're on a collision course. I'm crossing my fingers and praying. I want Michigan and Michigan State to both stay undefeated until they play each other. If they're both 7-0 going into that game, I forget what they call that. There's some word, name for their rivalry game, but man, I'm excited to watch Michigan, Michigan State, and I hope they're both undefeated going into that game. How about Jim Harbaugh? Like, having a great year coaching Michigan so far. And a lot of people, I remember, wanted to fire him last year. So we'll see. Ohio State lost to Oregon, and Michigan's undefeated. And I don't know. Like, things are looking up. If you're a Michigan fan, for years he's hated on Jim Harbaugh. Like, doing pretty well so far this year. Finally, I want to give a shout out to Pittsburgh University quarterback. Is it U Pitt or Pitt U? I don't know. Pitt U seems really unfortunate, like PU and Pitt U, Pitt State. And anyway, Kenny Pickett, though, the quarterback at Pittsburgh, deserves a shout out. He's played in 5 games this year. Pitt is 4-1. They beat an SEC team, Tennessee, last week. And Kenny Pickett has thrown for 1,731 yards, 19 touchdowns, only 1 interception. Again, that's in 5 games. So this is a guy, I'm getting more and more excited for film analysis videos after the year ends and preparing for the NFL draft. And right now, Kenny Pickett is a guy that I can't wait to break down his film. I'm so curious and excited to see how good is Kenny Pickett from an NFL perspective, and is he an NFL guy? Because he's on my radar and he looks fantastic so far this year in college football.